We judge ourselves by our intentions, but the rest of the world judges us by our behavior. And that's what I work on mainly with my clients when I'm doing executive coaching, is to help them adjust their behavior and realize that people don't judge them by their intentions, no matter how good their intentions might be. It's the behavior that counts.
Welcome to Jane Jackson Careers, a podcast that takes your career to the next level. Here's your host, Jane Jackson, author of Amazon Careers bestseller, Navigating Career Crossroads.
Welcome back to my Careers podcast, where I interview fascinating professionals who have either made amazing career changes or are leaders in their field. And today I'm really delighted because I have someone very special on the show. His name is Dennis Heath, and he's a qualified and very experienced executive coach, coach supervisor, and facilitator, and he has an impressive background. Over the past 30 years, he's held sales and management positions with multinational telecoms manufacturers in the Middle East, Europe, Africa, and Asia Pacific. During his distinguished sales career, as well as leading successful sales teams, he managed many complex multinational accounts with responsibility for negotiating global, multi-million-dollar contracts across 35 countries. He's lived in Saudi Arabia in the late 70s and early 80s and has been in Singapore since the year 2000. Born in England, he now holds Singapore citizenship, and that's where we first met in 2004, Singapore. He transitioned from being a corporate employee to coach in 2004. He's an NLP master practitioner and certified hypnotherapist. His clients often refer to his calm aura combined with laser-like questions that help them come up with new ideas and approaches to business. His articles on coaching and leadership development have been published in the Straits Times, Business Times, Singapore Institute of Management's Today's Manager magazine, Human Resource, and HRM magazines. He's also appeared on CNBC TV's Business Center and 93.8 FM live radio as an expert guest. He is a senior leadership coach to the Singapore Civil Service, where he coaches senior managers in the various ministries and statutory boards. His private sector clients include global financial institutions, technology, and oil companies. Oh, I'm getting so out of breath. Now, in his spare time, he performs voiceovers for TV and online videos, and also TV and film acting. He's appeared in a German TV movie and a Japanese feature film, as well as numerous local TV productions, and recently he's appeared in a trailer for the Netflix series The Crown. And I have to say that he looks a lot like a contender for a James Bond film too. So let's welcome Dennis to the show. Dennis?
Hello, Jane. You're far too kind.
Dennis, I am so out of breath, I can't tell you. I edited some of the information here because you've done so much, but we can find out all about it. But, I'm just delighted that you're on the show. You're there. It's evening in Singapore at the moment. I'm in Sydney. So thank you for sharing some time this evening with me, so that we can find out all about how you transitioned from being this talented corporate beast to executive coach, film actor, voiceover, hypnotherapist, all sorts of things. So how about to kick us off? You tell us about your early days and your career aspirations when you were a little boy.
As a little boy in England in those days, I guess I looked at being either a pilot or a train driver, because that was in the days of steam engines, those fire-breathing monsters that always impressed us little boys. However, when I left school, I did something that is quite unusual these days, and particularly unusual in Singapore and this part of the world. I started an apprenticeship with a radio telecoms company. Because then in England there were about, I guess, half a dozen universities, and it wasn't expected that you would go to university, in that it was more the exception than the rule. Now in England, every town and village has a, quote, university, but in those days it was quite acceptable and normal to leave school at 16 and go through an apprenticeship. So that's how I left school. And within 2 years of starting the technical apprenticeship, I decided that I didn't want to be an engineer. And I looked at the salesmen driving their shiny new company cars, and I thought, I want to be one of them. So much to the disgust and chagrin of the HR department, I quit the apprenticeship and got a job that got me involved with the salespeople when I was, I would be 18, 19. And by a series of flukes and accidents and quirks of fate, at 21, I ended up as a sales manager for the Arabian Gulf. So my first sales patch at 21 was Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. And then I went on to deal with West Africa, East Africa, lived in Saudi Arabia for a total of 5 years, and then over the years transitioned into digital communications, which of course is where we are now in terms of technology in a big way. And that's how I arrived in Singapore in the year 2000 with a company that was a specialist software company in the telco space.
What a fascinating start to your career. I mean, so really you are a sales professional through and through, and obviously very, very good at it because, you know, going all over the world and all that negotiation and sales. Do you think of yourself as a salesperson deep down?
No, you know what? It's interesting that I always thought that I wasn't really cut out for the job. But I seem to be quite good at it. I was never the sort of knock on the door, kick it down, grab the order and run on to the next opportunity type of salesman. But what I seemed to be good at and what companies hired me for was nurturing relationships with customers, with distributors around the world that produced business. So not the sort of door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman. I'm sure I would have been quite hopeless at that. But I tended to be quite good at nurturing relationships that fostered business.
I mean, that's the most important thing. Yeah, that's the most important thing, isn't it, with sales? It's not so much flogging a product or a service. It's really getting to know what the other person, what their pain points might be or what the company's pain points are and providing a solution. So interesting the way that your sales career progressed, and then that actually took you to Singapore. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, I came here with a software company that was going to make me a multi-millionaire within 12 months when it floated on the stock market.
How did that go?
Well, within 18 months, I had no job and 1 month's pay.
Oh, Dennis. So when was that? That wasn't the GFC. That was pre-GFC, wasn't it?
It was around 2001.
Asian economic crisis. Yeah, that was a tough time because that was when I started coaching actually, and I remember working for it was DBM, where I was the global outplacement company, and it was so busy because there were just so many downsizings and redundancies, and I've never been so busy in my life. It was quite amazing, but that was way before we met though, because we didn't meet till about 2004. So when there was that change and, the expectations of, IPO and everything going really well didn't happen, what did you do?
Well, that was my retirement plan out of the window. And there was no hope of me finding a job in Singapore with the economy in the state it was, and particularly in the market I was in. And I was the grand old age of 48. And I had no idea what I could do. And then I thought, well, maybe with this experience, I could go into training. So I embarked on a diploma course in training and development. And for the first time ever in Singapore, there was a module on coaching. And I found that I liked it and I had an aptitude for it. So I thought, maybe I could start to work as a coach rather than training. And being somewhat of an introvert by personality, coaching felt more comfortable to me than training.
Actually, it's interesting how coaches become coaches, isn't it? Because so many of the coaches that I've met, they're actually experts in their field, as you are, having had this long and illustrious career, within sales and doing very, very well. But I think all the travel and working with people from all different cultures and different organizations, it must have given you a really good insight into what makes other people tick. So how did you find that transition into becoming a coach?
Well, of course, it was tough at first because coaching was quite new in Singapore. In fact, very new. Nobody knew what it was or how to use it. So in those early days, I was actually cold calling on the phone, which I didn't enjoy, but I had to do it in order not to starve, and started to get my first clients through just persistence and doing that uncomfortable work.
And then, so were you targeting the corporate market or individuals?
No, I was targeting the corporate market because I decided early on that I would probably find that the senior management coaching most interesting and also the best paid in the coaching field. So one of the things I did was just decide then and there that would be my speciality. No matter what happened, I would design my business around coaching at the senior management level, because I think what a lot of people who aspire to be coaches don't realize is that they go on a coaching course, they get the certification, and they fail to recognize that coaching is a skill, but it's not a business. The business is something you have to create around the skill. And I think that's probably where some of my sales skills came in useful.
Actually, that's really true. Coaching is a skill, but it's not a business. Great quote, Dennis. Because so many coaches that I know as well, they're so good at what they do, but they're so hopeless at marketing themselves. And then they end up not wanting to go out of their comfort zone to really grow their practice. And I found that, I was very much the same, because I thought, I just want to coach. I just want to work with people and, just benefit them in some way. But then I thought, to be quite honest, I really need to grow this business, because as a coach, what you want to do is help people. And that's what you do, Dennis, so well, because you're such a well-respected coach in Singapore and globally too, because you genuinely care about the outcome and what people can do with their lives and progress as senior executives and C-suite executives as well. But how do you build your business?
Well, I basically do a lot of networking. I go to networking events, and of course these days you have to have a decent website. So I do get business through my website. I'm also an affiliate to a couple of other organizations that sell coaching services. So I'm on the books of 2 UK companies. So when they have a requirement for coaching in this part of the world, I'm the one who gets the call. So it's through third-party channels, it's through the internet, through the web, it's through networking, and I also used to have, like you do, I used to have a regular newsletter that I sent out, but I have to say that I've got very lazy with that recently. I'm very busy with work at the moment, and I think that's one of the issues. When you're a one-man band and you're doing well and there's lots of business, you don't have time to do the marketing. And then when your current pipeline starts to look a bit thin, you don't have that backup pipeline because you haven't done enough marketing. It's kind of it's a feast and famine existence.
Yeah, exactly. This is the same for just about every coach that I know who runs their own practice, who hasn't got their sales and marketing process down pat, because they're really, really busy in delivering. And that's the same for me. It's like, oh, this is great. You've got all of these assignments, and then you let the ball drop with regard to the marketing and sales process, and then it's so much like a roller coaster. But I know that for me, I've learned so much much about digital marketing, and I keep up with the newsletter because I've learned all about automation and outsourcing as well.
Yes.
And that really helps those in-between phases. Now, your coaching's going really well, but you've had such an interesting background because you're an NLP master practitioner and a certified hypnotherapist. Now, this is something I didn't know about you, Dennis. So tell me about the hypnotherapy. What is it that you do?
Actually, I trained in hypnosis after becoming an NLP practitioner. I became very interested in the workings of the mind. So I wanted to go deeper, as it were. And so I did a course in hypnosis. I certified as a hypnotherapist. And actually, I don't use it in my coaching in the sense of having my clients in deep trance, lying on the floor. But what it has done is added some extra power to my NLP skills, which I do use quite regularly. So I use quite a bit of waking hypnosis. So my clients don't know, they don't realize, but it really helps them sometimes to get a new perspective, see things differently, and to reframe situations to help them. So it's been very, very useful in that respect, and I love delving into how the mind works, and also having some skills that help me to be very direct, very blunt, to help me manipulate people's minds, but it's always in a good way for their benefit. And actually, that's one of the ethics of hypnosis. You only ever use it to the benefit of the client. So I found it really powered up my coaching skills.
And it probably can really help people to release what might be holding them back as well, that they don't even realize about. Do you do anything like regression therapy and things like that too?
In a way, a practical way that I use it, I have used it in coaching a number of times, when I realize, or the coachee realizes, that something that's holding them back goes back to childhood. So one of the techniques I use is to say to them, okay, imagine, I put a chair in front of them facing me, and I say, imagine that's you in that chair at 8 years old, or whenever the event happened that has stuck in their mind and is holding them back. So say, imagine it's you 8 years old. Now I want you to have a conversation with your 8-year-old self. And they will do that. And the results are quite amazing. And when they realize it's never too late to have a good childhood. So little tools like that can be very useful and very powerful without even having to put someone into trance.
I think it's probably just the awareness as well. There's one thing that I like to ask my clients, and I get them, instead of to go back, but to project themselves into a time 10 years from now, and what would their older selves say to their present self when they're stuck with certain important decisions. And it makes it so much easier when you can look from a different perspective. And I guess, these perceptual positions that you put people into when they're thinking about, what would I say to my 8-year-old self? It's really, really powerful, isn't it?
It is. And I like the idea of projecting the client forwards 10 years as well. I'll use that one.
I love sharing ideas with you, Dennis. This is so good, so good.
That's what it's all about, Jane.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about, sharing your expertise.
Exactly. And I think that's the wonderful thing about coaches, because, we're just so open, and it's wonderful that, professionally, as well as we're good friends too. So that's really good. But now I want to find out more about Dennis the man. Dennis the man. All right. Now you do some really interesting things outside of your regular day job as such. Okay. Yeah. So you perform voiceovers for TV, and you're on online videos, and you do TV and film acting. And so tell me a little bit about some of the things that you've done in that area.
Well, I've been doing both for about 6, almost 7 years, and I discovered them both by accident. by talking to people who were actors or part-time voiceover artists, and people often comment about my voice and find it quite soothing. So when I met a professional voiceover artist, and he said, you've got an interesting voice, I'll refer you to a studio and they'll take some samples. And so I went to the studio, recorded some samples, put it on the website of the studio, started to get some work, and then various production companies got to know me and know my voice, and so I got more and more work. But so I'm mostly hired in Singapore when they want a soothing kind of voice and a British accent. So that's
it's such a rounded, resonant voice, Dennis. It's wonderful. You know what we should do? We should get together and create a meditation series, don't you think? I mean, with my voice, I'm told I'm fun. So soporific. People say they love my voice, but I think it's really soporific. Yeah. And then you've got that deep, rounded, resonant voice. Don't you think together we could create some really good meditations?
I think there's a great partnership idea there.
I know. Well, there you go. And those who are listening in, this is the first you've heard of this. Now, how was it when you were in the German TV movie? I'm assuming there was a voiceover.
I was dubbed in German, which is disappointing, yes, but it was a two-part TV movie, and this particular scene was filmed in a very old building in Penang. It was set in 1938 in Indonesia, and I played the part of a district attorney because, of course, that in those days Indonesia was Dutch, but this was actually a German movie. So one floor of this old building was dressed up to look like the 1930s. It was quite a high budget affair. They took over rooms at the E&O Hotel, which is the smartest hotel in Penang. They had one of their ballrooms was a wardrobe room, just racks and racks of costumes. So that was a one-day shoot, and I really enjoyed it. I was treated like one of their main actors, and I had a chaperone with me all the time, holding my jacket for me during takes, and just generally making sure I was well fed and watered all day. So it's a fantastic experience. I really enjoyed that.
What about the Japanese feature film? What were you doing in a Japanese feature film, Dennis?
I was a butler. I was a butler to the head of British intelligence. And that was filmed in a studio over on Batam Island. There's a very, very big sort of Hollywood-style almost studio over there, Infinite Studios. So they were filming scenes over there, and yes, I played this actually rather creepy butler, and I was quite happy when I first met with the director when he was doing the casting, and he looked me up and down and said to his colleague something in Japanese, and I said to the fellow with me, I said, "Well, what did he just say?" He said, "The director says you look too young. We'll have to use a lot of makeup." So I felt quite flattered by that.
And then it led on to being in this trailer for Netflix on The Crown. Tell me about that. I love The Crown. Great show.
It's a great series, and I was a butler again. I can't seem to. I'm either
There's
a butler or a lawyer.
Theme,
there's a theme. Yes, there's a future for me as a butler. So that was filmed here, and it was a teaser, what they call a teaser for Series 3. So it's only about 30 seconds, and I played a butler in that one with I was the head butler, so I had 4 lackeys with me who I was running about the palace. So that was very interesting. It's a one-day shoot, and generally one thing I've discovered is that a one-day shoot usually means about 3 minutes on screen.
Yeah, yes, actually, that's so true. You know, as you're talking about this reminds me of, oh my goodness, it's such a long time ago. In the 1970s, I was in a film. I'd almost forgotten about it. And it was in Hong Kong. And I had to go to Macau for the shoot. And it was a 1.5-day shoot. And it was called The Private Eyes with, who was it? Michael and Edmund Hui, the Hui brothers. And
I thought you were going to say Michael Caine.
No, it was a Cantonese movie. It was so funny, and I was only in the little bit at the beginning. You know, they have those little sort of trailery or starter things, you know, at the beginning. Yeah. It took so long, all this filming, and I was on for all of about 10 seconds. So never mind, they paid me, so that was it. But that was my one and only film that I was never asked back, Dennis. That's a sad thing. You're always asked back, so that's so good. And I have to say, as I mentioned in the intro, was that you look a lot like a contender for a James Bond film. So it would be more like one of the ones where you're at, like Casino Royale, where you're in the black tie. Okay, suits you very, very well. And so what next for Dennis Heath?
What next? Well, of course, I'm now thinking about retirement, but still attending conferences, going to seminars to develop my skills continuously. I really believe in that, and I think anybody who starts a one-man or one-woman business like coaching, you really have to invest in yourself to make sure that you're always top of your game. I've now started doing facilitation. I trained as a facilitator, and I've found that a lot of good facilitation relies on coaching skills, so that's fitted me quite well. So now, this week, most of my time is at the Civil Service College doing small group facilitation with groups of 6 civil service officers, helping them to have conversations that are productive with each other to help their learning as leaders and aspiring senior leaders. So that's the extra dimension.
Yeah, and you've had a brilliant career. What would you say, Dennis, looking back now, what are your top 3 tips for success as a coach or as a business owner?
First of all, I think, much like yourself, become a specialist. Decide what you're going to do and be the go-to expert in it. So I don't do anything other than senior management leadership coaching, and I've added a little bit of facilitation to that. But my website, my business card, everything I do is around leadership, senior management coaching. So be the expert, be the go-to person. I think the other thing is that you must, of course, have a good web presence. So don't cut corners on your website and your web presence, because that's vital to your business. If you don't have a decent website, first of all, it's probably not going to come up when people do Google searches. And secondly, if people do find it and it's not impressive, they'll probably go on to the next website. So invest in your website. And also, as I've just mentioned, really invest in yourself. Keep developing, keep making sure you're ahead of, you're at least up to date, or preferably ahead of current trends in your chosen speciality, so that you really do become the go-to person for that niche. And last, I know this is more than 3, be persistent. Be persistent. Go to as many networking events as you can to keep your profile high and become known as that go-to person.
Valuable advice, Dennis Heath, executive coach, coach supervisor, facilitator, voiceover artist, film actor, and what else are you? Oh, hypnotherapist and NLP master practitioner. You're amazing, Dennis. You've had such a rich life. Oh, and also sales professional in the early days. So, I mean, absolutely fantastic. I'm very lucky to have had you come on the show. Now, I'm sure people want to find out where they can reach you. So where can people reach you, Dennis?
Okay, the website is www.wayahead, that's one word, wayahead.com.sg.
And it's an impressive website too. I'll have links to Dennis's website and contact details on my show notes on janejacksoncoach.com, so you'll be able to find him. And I have to say thank you so much, Dennis. And I reckon we've got to partner with this meditation offering, I reckon, because we can be rounded and resonant with, every meditation that we do. Oh, we have to be careful that you don't hypnotize us as well.
You already have been, Jane. You just don't realize it.
There we go. I'll talk to you again soon, Dennis. Thanks so much. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jane.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download and free 30-day trial at audibletrial.com/Jane Jackson Careers. There are over 180,000 book titles to choose, so give it a go and get your free audiobook today from audibletrial.com/Jane Jackson Careers.
You've been listening to Jane Jackson Careers. Sign up to receive regular career advice at janejacksoncoach.com.